Hey everybody, welcome back to When the Words Film Music Speaks podcast, where we fight depression with the power of music. I'm your professional handicap host, James Cox. And I have another great interview with you all today. But first, let me tell you about him before we have him on. Miguel Rios is an Australian singer-songwriter known for blending Americana with his unique upbringing in a far north Queensland alternative community. His debut album, Slaughterhouse Road, which is excellent, by the way, reflects on the challenges and rewards of growing up surrounded by music. With access to a home recording studio, his latest release, Running Blue, mixes at alt, folk, and blues, featuring the top musicians like Astor Jones and producer Craig Pinkleton.
Pilkington.
Pilkington, I'm sorry about that. Um, Also, he is a filmmaker. Miguel's songs are filled with imaginary ageless nature, humanity, and life's mysteries. Recently, he has reconnected with his Native American and Mexican heritage, deepening his creative journey, captivating festivals, audiences, and praised by artists like Hat Fitz and Kara Robinson. Miguel's music continues to evolve, showcasing his talent for blending a gritty, earth-real sounds. Miguel, how's it going, man?
Yeah, good. Thanks, James.
Yeah. Now,
I'm good. How are you?
good. Yeah. So let me ask you this: Is that all true? Because I grabbed parts from different sites and whatnot. So is that all true? What I just read?
Yeah, that's all true.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything that you said there is true. Yes.
Perfect. Because nowadays you can't always believe the internet, because everything on the internet is correct, right? You know?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I wouldn't yeah, believe half of what you read,
Right.
but
Yeah.
but that and that was yeah, I could tell that was from different things, but yeah, it's all yeah, that's all true.
Yeah.
It's definitely.
I think there's a saying is believe half of what you see and nothing that you read. You know. I don't know if
I like that.
yeah, I don't know if you. I've heard that thing. I've heard that from some time back, but that's true. That's mainly nowadays. So, uh, you are a you are in Australia right now,
Yeah. So I moved from North Queensland, so
right?
all the way to the bottom of Australia, which is North. So Queensland is the top state in Australia.
Yeah.
So I moved right from the very top of the country to the very bottom of the country, to Melbourne, which is like the southern one of the southernmost cities. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because Melbourne is the only place besides Perth that I know of Australia. I know Melbourne and I know Perth, Australia. You know.
Yeah.
So
And they both have very vibrant music scenes,
good.
Perth
Yes.
and Melbourne.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. How is the music scene there? Because here in America, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you got music for every continent. Everybody's doing music here in America. How is it in Melbourne? I mean, what's the atmosphere like over there dealing with music? Yeah.
Yeah, so Melbourne music scene, there's a ton of um like excellent venues and variety of shows. Um but Melbourne's a very, very busy city. It's got so much. What I'm finding now is there's so much going on all of the time, and it probably doesn't quite have the population to sustain how much is going on in it. You know,
Right.
so the audience can be spread a bit thin, I would say, is the only thing. But there's plenty of opportunities to play, and there's
Correct.
a lot happening all the time. There's festivals, there's, lots of venues, big venues, smaller venues, medium venues. The thing that I probably like doing the best is getting into the regional areas outside of Melbourne, so into the country. And there's lots of venues within this state, and the people I find in those in the regional areas really, really love having some music coming to town, and most of them have like a vibrant music scene themselves, but I just find I don't know, I'm from the country originally, so any chance to get into the country,
There you
I
go.
like doing it. And and then I don't know, just there is beautiful old venues out there that put on some great music. So that's sort of where it's sort of spilled out away from the city to out into these outer sort of towns, which is good as well.
Right. Well, you said that there's more venues than there are people there, and over here in America, I think that there's more people here than venues. You know.
I
So
reckon.
right, yeah, because I think America is like the number one source for people to come down. I guess, and not. I don't know. Yeah, but there seems to be more people than venues because it is so hard trying to keep a venue open nowadays for small venues. You know.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard now because of the everything's going up in price. You know, over
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. They're finding the same thing in Melbourne.
Oh,
So
okay,
a lot of
okay, so
places, a lot of places are closing.
yeah,
Like sometimes now, a place will just be open for a little, like short amount of time, 18 months maybe,
really,
and then they'll shut up. And then it's a real pity because they might be a really good venue, and it's a lot to do with prices of insurance to cover venues staying open.
mm,
And they're trying to change it. I don't know
yeah,
what it's like in the States, but with the government with the local government, they try and work with local government to try and give venues a break to
yeah.
make it more appealing for them to stay in business. But it must be some of them pay huge amounts of um, prohibitive amount of insurance. They can't stay open.
Right. Well, see, the thing with America is, I'm not sure. Well, you probably heard of Ticketmaster and Live Nation over here,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
and I think they have the monopoly about who can sell tickets. It's like
yeah,
nobody can sell. So I think they're putting the prices on tickets so high that nobody can afford them, and when you can't afford them, you kill the smaller venues because they rely on ticket prices. So that's the majority here. You know.
absolutely. Gee, that's
So,
terrible.
yeah,
Is there any discussion to change that or
yeah.
make it
Probably
or
get
to
a new
make it,
president. I don't know.
yeah,
So I don't know. I don't want to. I don't think it falls directly over the president because I don't know because I know he does not make the prices. But our government's got to do a lot better. I don't know. I don't know
yeah.
what can be done, but I don't really like getting in politics. But when it comes up,
No,
so
neither do I.
I try to stay out of
But
it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I'm the same. But arts always seem to, as soon as things start to get difficult, arts seems to struggle. They seem
right.
to
Yeah.
neglect the arts, which is a real pity because people need music,
It,
people need
see,
film,
that's
people need all that stuff.
that's the main thing is people need music because music can move people in ways that other things cannot. You know.
Absolutely,
And that's what
absolutely.
and that's what this podcast is about because it helps with depression. I have clinical depression, and music
Yeah.
helps me out tremendously with depression. So
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. It does. It has a huge effect. It has even a subliminal effect on us.
right,
And it's a part of, it's a part of humanity, I think, is music. Been around forever.
it is. It is. Yes, sir. So one of the reasons why I wanted to interview, not the only one, because you're a great guy right now, is you have a single called "Innocent Man." Okay.
Yep.
And for
Yep.
everybody else, it came out July 29th, 2024, according to Apple Music.
Yep. That's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Yes. That song reminds me about so much. Like, okay, so listening to that song, it begs the question: were you influenced majorly by Johnny Cash and all time?
Absolutely. Sorry. Yep. I'll
Yeah,
let you
okay,
finish.
good. Because that song just brings back so many memories of me listening to Johnny Cash. What I love about you is your songs deliver stories, and each song is like its own story. Not many people do that now. Do you know why that was going away, and why did you decide to like potentially bring that back?
Yeah, well, firstly, yes, I am hugely influenced by Johnny Cash. Not when I was a kid, I never listened to Johnny Cash. I didn't really. I knew a few of his songs, sort of, and I used to play a bit of, some of his more well-known songs. I was just on the guitar, but I didn't really know him, and I wasn't really into his stuff. And it wasn't until I'd been living in Melbourne for a few years, and my band was sort of on the rocks a little bit. We just sort of breaking up, and I was interested in different. I was listening to lots of different sounds, and there's some terrific. They probably have in Louisiana as well, like terrific community radio stations,
Mhm.
and you hear excellent music on these community radio stations. It's where I find a lot of new music, and there's one in Melbourne. And I was listening to the radio one morning, and this song came on. It was a Johnny Cash song, and it was one of the series that he'd done with Rick Rubin, one of the American series.
Right.
And it had this sound that I remember it just stopped me dead in my tracks, and it captivated me. And I just went, that is the sound that I've been sort of searching for. Everything about it, the production, the way he sang, it was just, I can't explain it. It was so captivating. At the end of the song, I had to ring up the station and say, "Look, who is that?" And he was actually doing a copy. He was doing a cover. Johnny Cash was doing a cover of an Australian songwriter called Nick Cave, who wrote this song called "The Mercy Seat." I don't know if you're familiar with it,
Mhm.
but Johnny Cash was doing this version of it, and the production of it, everything about the way he sang was just insane. And I think when I made Slaughterhouse Road, that was 20 years later. I had that. I actually said to the engineer and co-producer I worked with, I said that's sort of my reference of like this stripped back sort of just raw emotion and sounds. And so, yes. And since then, I've really like, there's a song of his called When the Man Comes Around. I don't know if you know that. It's
Yes. Oh yeah.
probably
Yep.
one of my favorite songs of all time, and definitely
Yes.
my favorite Johnny Cash song. I just think it is just incredible, the story in that. And so I think storytelling songs probably, yeah, probably from that time, probably from that period or a bit before that, because I've always written songs that are a bit sort of like have a story arc in them. But since probably hearing something when the man comes around, that really did influence um, writing those sort of songs, those story songs. I mean, I was into Bob Dylan and stuff before that, so I always had an interest in those lyrical. Not necessarily, didn't have to have a cohesive story to them, but they just they had some kind of story in them. And I listened, I look for songs that have that when I listen to a song, and I try and I naturally write like that. And I think I'm hoping it comes back. I'm hoping more people do it because I love that
Yeah.
style.
Yeah.
And as you say, Johnny Cash was the king of it, really.
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah, because he had Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard,
Yeah,
Willie Nelson, all great
yeah,
guys. And I think
yeah.
they are the first uh, really like the original, you know, gun toting western singing songwriters.
Ab-
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even even on a TV show the other night, I heard a Waylon Jennings song that I'd never heard before, and
No.
had to stop the show immediately and look it up because it
Yeah.
was just
Wait,
so awesome.
right. Yeah. Because uh, I don't remember what the song is called, but I think it's I won't let nobody hold my body down, and that song by Johnny Cash
Yeah.
reminded me of Innocent Man because it's the very
Yeah.
very
Yes, it has that.
it's got like okay because I'm reading your Innocent Man bio, and it's like a chain gang beat. You know, it's kind of like a
Yes, yes, yes,
yeah, walk
yeah,
like a walking thing. I love it.
yeah,
I just love that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. That was so Lola Brinton is a lady that lives in another town up further north, and I met her on a songwriting retreat, and she had the lyrics, so she'd written that Innocent Man, all the lyrics,
Oh, okay.
and because it's a co-write, Innocent
My,
Man's a co-write with two other writers,
yeah.
and she presented this. It was a songwriting retreat, like 1 week of just writing songs and playing them to people, them to other songwriters. And she presented this lyrics sheet, and I just went, "Oh, these are great words, you know." And I think within an hour, and then and I think the only thing she said was because Lola just writes, she doesn't play instruments, and she the only thing she said was, "It's influenced by this movie called Cool Hand Luke, which I hadn't seen at the time." And she said, "I'm thinking of it like a chain gang sound to it." So
Yeah.
straight away, me and another guy, Martin Sykes, within an hour, I think we just came up with this sound, with that sort of that rhythm to it, that sway, and and then when we worked out the whole song, and then that evening we played it, and so it was very quickly put together, and I think because myself and Martin like are familiar. We love that sort of song. We love that sort of feel of music. We were very familiar with it. We could get into the hang of it straight away. And so in the studio when we did that, it was a lot of fun because what you're hearing on the track is actually us in the studio doing that stuff in real time, doing the stomping and dropping. We had a massive container full of percussion instruments, and we were just dropping the percussion instruments in time on the floor,
Oh,
and as well as putting in other bits of metal and stuff we
yeah,
were hitting.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we got this. But we really, I'm so glad to hear that you're feeling that rhythm, because that was the intention of really really conveying that sort of chain gang sound.
Right. Okay, so has anybody came up to you and wanted to use that in a movie? Because I think that's like the perfect like Western movie song. You know, that would be
I,
a great song to put in a movie or like a TV show.
Man, I would love that. That
Yeah,
would be
that
like
would
a
be
huge.
awesome. Yeah,
If that could happen, like, oh, that would be, because that's part of why, like, apart from it would just get more people would be conscious of what I'm doing
yeah,
and be
right.
able to hear it. Apart from that, it's sort of what got me back into making films again when I was in my early 20s.
Yes,
Because I started making films when the technology came around that you could buy consumer cameras that had a high enough quality. They did this thing where you could buy what's called a 3-chip camera, so it could give you almost like television quality in a tiny little camcorder. And so I started making videos again, so I could and the whole reason I was making the videos is so I could put music to them, because I
right.
had this music that I could have a visual thing. And so, yes, so I would love to. Man,
Mm,
that would be so cool.
hmm, that would be yeah, because it was like an old Western movie or some kind of ending. You know, because sometimes you know you go to right at the end of the movie or TV show and it's just playing like Innocent Man, and I think that's spectacular. You know, that's
Absolutely. I think so as well. I'm
yeah.
pushing for
All
it.
right, yes, sir. Okay, uh, so would you consider your genre like folk or country or Western country? Because on Apple Music it says you're folk, but to me
Yeah,
you're more country than folk. I don't know what folk
yeah,
version is.
I would say that it's probably something like I've heard other songwriters and musicians talk about this thing, and people are very conscious about staying in their genre.
Hmm.
I think some people do that deliberately because it's easier to I don't know, maybe that's just what they love, that
Yeah,
genre, or but it's easier to market, it's easier to write content for, because if you just do that one thing. For me, I'm way too interested in different sounds. So I move from one thing to the next, and I've always been like that. And
Yeah.
I just can't keep in one area. And it probably Americana. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess that's
Yeah.
when Johnny Cash did those American series. I mean, I feel like he bought a sound that already existed, I'm sure, but he brought this Americana sort of sound that was more of a crossover of things, and
Right.
I think it would probably sit in that sort of category. Um, yeah, it would probably be more accurate. But yeah, there's some stuff that is, and I love a good country song is
Yeah.
just
Right.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Like and deceptively difficult to write, a really good country song that works
Right.
and is like, the thing I love about country songs is a lot of them, it doesn't look like there's, like, if I listen to a John Prine song, I don't know if you know much
Oh
John
yeah.
Prine,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it looks simple from the outside, but it's not. It's got all these. It's really difficult. It's really tricky. It's got all these layers to it to get it right and to get the mood across. It's all about getting them. If you can get the mood across with it, and it's sort of tricky to do. I love that. That's what I love about songwriting. It's
Yeah.
not easy to do. It's difficult.
I personally love it when I see a band like graduate from where they started out sounding like to a wholly different thing sometimes. Because that means
Yeah,
they're human too, and like the band Megadeth, that's a
yeah.
full-on heavy metal group, right? But they released one album called Risk, which is alternative. It didn't work out,
Oh, yeah.
but they tried it, and
Yeah.
I love the album, but a lot of people don't. So,
Ah,
but it shows me that they're risking it. That's what the album called Risk, because that was a big risk for them. So
yeah, yeah. Well,
I love
even
it when people try out different stuff, other than their go-to sound. I think that's fantastic.
well, what happened? Yeah, yeah. I mean, the other thing is, I mean, um, I don't know much about Bruce Springsteen, but I love Nebraska. I
Yes.
mean, I love his music, and from what I can tell about, I think I watched a short documentary on it recently, and it seemed like it was a risk for him to. That
Right.
was sort of out of left field for him to make, but now it is.
No,
Someone played it at a gig, like someone played it over the PA at a gig the other night, and it's just amazing. It just
yeah,
stops you in your. It's
probably
incredible.
some of his best work ever now. Yeah, you know.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah,
hands down. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about you growing up. Okay.
yeah.
So growing up in an alternative community in far north Queensland, how did you think your upbringing in such a unique environment shaped your approach of storytelling in both songwriting and filmmaking?
I think for a start, it you're in contact with a lot more grown-ups than just your mother and father.
Yeah.
So you're getting to hear the perspective of the world from a lot of different angles. Sometimes not the greatest angle, but it's a variation,
Yeah.
and that gives you a lot more insight into things, and you get to see a lot of different slices of life, because the people that that live there were very, there's a real wide variety of people that live there.
Right.
A lot of expat Americans, quite a few, and people from all over the country come up to this area. And so some of the things that really shaped me was that there was an incredible record collection. There would have been thousands
Got
and
some
thousands
records
of
right
records.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
We would have had thousands of records, and one of my best memories as a kid, because the kids there's a lot of us kids.
Yeah.
And I sat somewhere in the middle age wise. So older kids would play you records that you didn't necessarily know about,
Yeah.
and we'd have these listening. We just listen to records, lots, like for hours. And I remember hearing, and because everyone had a go, of putting something on, so you hear this wide variety of stuff. That really influenced me. And the other thing we had was a huge library of books. And when I just started high school, I was probably in year nine. I really didn't, I wasn't a good fit for high school, or school much in
Right,
general.
right. No, me neither. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you can relate,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I was real
But
bad at math. I could not do math, dude. Yeah, I
oh,
was
you
just,
couldn't do math? Yeah, yeah,
no. Yeah.
I struggled with maths, and I struggled with English as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
In primary school, they decided when I went through primary school early, which you call that primary school in the States, like the
I think about elementary school or something.
elementary school.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when I
Yeah.
started elementary school, I was they decided that maybe we didn't need to learn grammar because these new things called computers were going to come in. They were going to take over everything, and so we didn't really need to know grammar. So I was stuck in this couple of years. They worked it out after about 4 or 5 years. Oh, hang on, no, we do need to teach the kids this.
Right. Yeah,
Um, but I was in that period that missed out, and so I got into high school not knowing basic grammar. I didn't know what a noun or an adjective was or a verb
no.
or anything like this. And and it wasn't until year 10, by the time I was in year 10, which would be like high school,
Yeah.
um, I'd started reading a lot. So I'd started taking books or getting my parents to recommend me books from this library at home. I read lots of biographies by all sorts of people. And I read lots of detective stories like uh, Elmore Leonard's. Like he was loved the detective stories.
Right.
Loved a lot of American detective stories, and just heaps and heaps and heaps of literature. And then by the time I got into year 10, I had a teacher that loved poetry. And I remember on the first day of school, she took off her first day of high school English. I'd never been interested in English before because I really just didn't. I felt like a bit stupid with it. I didn't know. And I remember she took off her shoes. She sat up on the table, cross-legged, and she sang Paul Simon's "The Sound of Silence." And she just sang it a cappella. And I'd never really I'd heard the song sort of in the background growing up, but I'd never paid much attention to it. And she just did this beautiful version of it, and I was just captivated by that storytelling, like you say, that storytelling type of song. And I guess I could see what poetry could be, what songwriting could be. And from then and from that class on, I started learning how to use English.
Mm.
Started learning English, and she helped me learn English, and I became quite good in the next few years at English language. But I'd had experiences before that had really put me off. And I had one experience when I was in year nine when I had a teacher. She was from Mississippi, and I got up and I played and I did a story on Jimi Hendrix. And I brought my guitar in and I bought my electric guitar in and then I played Jimi Hendrix on my electric guitar, and the whole class, they loved it. They thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But but she gave me a really crappy mark, and I just couldn't do anything right for that teacher. And I was almost like, by the time the end of that session that year when I just thought I'm not gonna I'm giving up on this English thing.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
for me. And it was this next year that I had this teacher that helped me with all this. And so I just have continued to read and read and read. And I think that's a huge part of what has influenced my writing
Yeah.
and my filmmaking as well.
Yeah.
Um, just up until the age of 25, I was just, and it was a lot of classic novels, you know, and just constant and film. The other thing is we would watch films. I grew up in in an environment where there was films on all. And I don't know about you, but we used to videotape the film from the television. It would come in, and then you record the film so you could watch it later.
Right.
Because we only had two television stations. So when a
Ooh.
film would come on, you
Yeah.
know, you would copy this so you could, and then you'd watch it about 50 times. You know, this videotape.
Right. Yeah. Because I wasn't listening to yeah. Yeah, but I'm going back to everybody has at least one or two teachers that they absolutely hated in high school, and I feel like yeah, you know. Can you hear me? Okay.
Sorry, I lost you
Oh,
for 1 second,
okay.
James.
Yeah. Everybody has at least one or two teachers that they absolutely hated back in their high school days. So I
Yeah,
feel you on that. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but let's go back to what you were saying about the records, right? So I'm imagining you got to be in your 40s, right? Because I'm 44. I lived through a long time, and I'm sure you did too, right?
Yep, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
48. Yeah,
Perfect. So we're in the same boat, right? Okay. So we
yeah,
went through. Well, I went through cassettes to
yeah,
CDs back
yeah,
to vinyl records. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So I've been I've started collecting these again. You know, cassette tapes. Right? You
Ah,
got to yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so what was your main physical media? Did you go for cassettes or CDs, or did you keep finding vinyl records?
Well, for recording, I started recording on an 8-track
Yeah,
reel-to-reel tape machine. That was the first thing, and also cassettes. We
yeah,
would have the small cassette. You'd have as about a 10-year-old, we would put cardboard into the little things at the back that would allow the tape to be recorded onto.
yeah, yeah.
And we would dub over the top of we would do, the song would play, and then we dub words over, usually childish humor, over some of this over some of these songs. But that was the first sort of, or we do sound effects over the top of these songs. But it was like overdubbing. Very first overdubbing is about 10 on a tiny little thing like this,
Yeah.
and then progressed to reel to reel, which we had a reel to reel player at home, and could record into that. Um, when I- when I moved to Melbourne, we recorded onto digital, but there's something like, and when I say digital, onto a computer,
Right.
but something never sat with me 100% about the digital stuff. It just didn't. I think it's as much as when this discussion comes up, because it often comes up digital versus analog and all this
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, there's a very big difference when you listen to a lovely vinyl record. It just sounds, there's nothing like it really.
Right.
Um, but when you're making music and recording it, the process that you go through to make a digital album or song versus to make something on tape, on reel-to-reel tape, the process is very different. I think that's the part that people don't talk about a lot. You go through a different process in terms of there's much more stuff on the front end of what you're doing. So you have to be committed to your ideas at the start of things rather than fixing things and doing stuff after the fact. So I really that really appeals to me. Sort of just capturing a moment, because I think as people we'll just keep changing things forever if we can.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and so I love this idea of just capturing it and going, okay, you can't really mess with it too much, then move on to something else. Because I'm always writing as well, because I don't want to, if you hang on to one lot of songs, you've got all this backlog of stuff that you
Yeah.
want to keep working on.
You gotta get them
And
done sometime. You know, you can't hold on to it to
that's
what.
right. Yeah, you want to
Yeah.
get them out there. But
Right.
but I've never had anything made onto vinyl, and if I could, that would be that. I mean, I'd love at some point to get Slaughterhouse Road made onto vinyl, because it
Yes,
was
by this
recorded on.
album. Right. I mean, I
It,
would buy that tomorrow if you had it on vinyl.
yeah, it
That's
was
great.
recorded on.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, thanks, James. It was recorded on tape, and it would be. I think it would sound fantastic on vinyl, and so I'm thinking at some point that I might do like a funding campaign to try and get
Yeah.
to pre-sell, because that's what people seem to do. One of the things they do is they try and pre-sell albums,
Right.
and then you get enough funding to be able to actually then print them and make
Right.
them, and then you sort of, and so CD has had to be the medium, unfortunately. But cassette tape, some of the first things, some of the first things I ever sold were cassette tapes.
Yeah.
I've moved firstly to Brisbane from North Queensland, so that's halfway between where I grew up and where I am now. Halfway is a town called Brisbane on the coast, and it's when we were there, we had a tape recorder, Panasonic tape recorder. It just had a tiny little condenser mic on the front of it, and we'd just sit around with our guitars, me and another guy that I wrote songs with, and we'd play, and we just use like the bluegrass sort of techniques of proximity to the microphone, and we'd play these songs and record them into this, and we make tapes, and then we'd sell the tapes at gigs,
Right.
and or to we'd sell them for $5, and we'd just make copies of them, and that was the first thing that we ever sold. And there's something, once again, there's something about the immediacy of that sound coming from one source. It's just kind of cool, It's got a real sound to it. Like Bruce Springsteen recording that in Nebraska.
Yeah.
It just has a sound and a quality to it but also it's the sound and the quality, but it's also the moment that you've captured it. You've just done it in one go. You haven't edited. You haven't had the chance to do all this editing or overthinking or anything like that. You've just had to do it. And I think that is part of the main thing.
Nice, nice. You've spoken about a strong cultural connection into your Native American and Mexican heritage. How did these cultures influence manifest in your music, and how have they evolved as you move to different places in your life?
So it's interesting because my father moved out here from the States in in the early 70s, and he didn't go back for a very, very long time, but both of his parents were Mexican born, I think, or they just moved to America before he was born or something like that. I can't remember the history. The history is very cloudy. But
Okay.
they were like, he grew up in a house with 5 siblings where Spanish was just spoken. It was the
Right.
only language. And this is in Pasadena in California. And but he grew up in this Spanish Latino family. And I've spoken to my uncle who lives in San Francisco a lot about this. And as I grew up, there was always this. It's interesting because I was called Miguel Rios,
Yeah.
and my sister's got a Latino name as well, and we're in Australia. But most of my cousins in the States don't really have Latino names,
Right.
and so I think for some, but we didn't really have any. There's no internet back then. You could write letters. You could even get a phone. Like we used to speak to our family over there once a year, maybe twice a year. Like even getting the phone call out to the States
Right.
to speak to our grandparents was difficult. But there was a interesting connection that existed, even though I didn't grow up around it. There was an appeal, there was a pull towards it for some reason. And I've spoken to my uncle about this, and he said, "Well, some people, if you feel it, you feel it. There's nothing, you can't explain it really.
Exactly. Yeah.
Another person might not feel it at all. They might not have any appeal towards that at all. But for some reason, I have, and I feel like I have to go out. We call it going out bush in Australia. I
Yeah.
have to go and go and be in environments that is very connecting with the bush and environment, just as a thing. I don't know. I can't even explain that. But when I read about, Native American stuff, I sort of understand. I wouldn't say I understand, but it makes a bit of sense that I have this innate sort of need to want to do that. And the Spanish thing is the same, the Mexican, it's just always been there, I would get a hard time for being Mexican stuff in North Queensland, which was so strange. I didn't even know I was the only Mexican in the area,
Yeah.
but it was, so it's just become a part of my life without even knowing, without ever having actually been in those cultures
Right.
or the the part of, because my grandfather was born in El Paso, um, and his the American tribe, the American Indian tribe that he's from was called the Yaqui Indians.
Right.
Then there's still a reservation down in El Paso, and I did want to go. I would love to go there at some stage, and I'm interested. I don't know. It seems like so foreign from Australia to go all the way over there and know how to access that sort of thing, but there's a connection there. It resonates in some way. I don't know. I don't know why.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you got a lot of family members in the United States. So you always got somewhere to stay. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I've got
Yeah.
a ton of family. I've got so much family in the States.
Mm.
I mean, my father had 40 cousins,
40
So
cousins. Yeah.
yeah,
No.
40 cousins,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they've all got family now, and
Yeah.
I've got a huge amount of family. And
Okay.
last time I was over there, I went to Texas, and I wanted to go to El Paso, but I went to South by Southwest. So I went to South by Southwest is held in um, oh, the name of the town's slipped my mind.
Mm.
But I did want to go further down to El Paso. It didn't happen. But in hindsight, I probably like what you're saying about Nashville. I would, if I was going to go to the States again, which I would really like to,
Yes. Yeah.
I would go to Nashville for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because Nashville is a country capital. Everybody is in Nashville that wants to be like a country star. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like my mom says, they got museums, they got a whole like a whole row of like bars that plays nothing but country music. So I think you'll love it too. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm planning. I'm sort of making some vague plans out there, and
yeah,
I've been speaking to my family over there, and they're always saying, "Come over." They're always saying, "Come over, come over,"
dude, you
and
gotta go over now.
I've got to come over, man. I've got to
Yeah.
do it. And but yeah, it's interesting on the Mexican side of things. So teachers at school could never pronounce my name.
Okay. Yeah.
No one could get the name right. And so the teacher would say some version of it, and then the whole class would erupt into laughter.
Right.
And I'd get terribly embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I remember I was about 13 and I came home and I said to my dad, I said, "Why'd you give me this? Why'd you give me this name?" And no one can say it,
Right. Yeah.
and he went, "Look, if you really want to change it," he goes, "We can change it for you. It's Miguel. You can change it to Michael, and you can change your surname to Rivers, which is the equivalent of Rios.
Mm.
Um, he said, we can just do it if you want." And I remember I went and thought about it for a bit, and decided not that I wanted to keep it, and so it's sort of something that has just grown with me. Just having that name has been, I don't know. It's a funny thing because I've had people in bars, like South American people, look me up and down and more or less call you an imposter because you got that. They say, "Why'd you change it? Why'd you change your name to that?"
Yeah. Right.
And you're like, "Well, I'm born with this." And
Yeah.
it's I've sort of grown into. It's become a part of who I am. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what that teacher's problem was because Miguel is so easy to pronounce for me. So
Oh, I know. I
yeah,
know.
yeah.
I
So it's all
know.
right. So let me ask you this: uh, Do let's see, which parent gave you the most musical influence? I mean, like growing up, did they play sort of music that you are more fond of now? Whether your mom played one kind or your dad played another kind, which parent, you know? got you.
They didn't. I probably got um most of my influence for music from other, probably not from my parents. Although I remember my father played the song Hotel California
Yes.
um
Even
about 100 times a day,
right.
and that had a big influence because I loved the song, but it was more other people would play. I had a guitar teacher that lived at our property as well, and his knowledge of music was insane.
Yeah.
He knew, he just had this, he could reference any type of music, and then he could play that sort of type of blues,
Yeah.
or that type of rock and roll or whatever, or folk, or all sorts of very. So I was lucky from that, and also older kids that would play, like I had like an older cousin who was 5 years older than me, and he would play. He would put on stuff that I wasn't necessarily listening to, because there was a lot of hair bands and like, remember that glam rock stage. There was a lot of
80s,
that when I
yes.
was in high school. Yeah,
80s, yeah, yep. Because
the
you had
80s.
all the 80s metal bands with Motley Crue and Kiss and all these
Exactly, all
horrendous.
that.
Yeah, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and all that sort of, all the look of it, and the fact they were getting the attention of everyone, that sort of appealed to me, and but after a while it was a bit hollow, and then, but then my older cousin, he'd go, no, check out this, play, and then he'd play me some Nazareth, or he'd play me some AC/DC, or some Black Sabbath, or something, or old Leonard Cohen or something like that, and it was and so I was getting that as well, and it might have taken me a bit of time to, because that's the beauty of some of those recordings, and I would say a lot of the recordings that were made previously,
Yeah,
probably in the 70s and maybe earlier, they didn't really. It wasn't about immediately getting it,
right.
or sometimes it took a little bit of time to get it. And that's not a bad thing, I don't think. And I've always thought that about, like, when I released Slaughterhouse Road, I thought people mightn't immediately like this album,
Yeah,
but I reckon if they gave it a bit of time, it might grow on them, and they would. And I like albums where you have to like get into them a bit to really feel them and hear them. So a lot of those early recordings that people were showing me, that was the effect. But in terms of parents, I do remember one thing. My mother, who used to tell me she was tone deaf, and she wasn't, but and she never sang, or she didn't play an instrument.
right.
But I remember we were driving one night, and she started singing "Hit the Road, Jack,"
Mm.
and I never heard it, and she sang it in this real gravelly sort of voice, and it was just great. And I went, "What is that song?" And she said, "Oh, it's just Hit the Road, Jack." And then I made her sing it over and over again.
Yeah.
'Cause it just had this real,
That's a Ray Charles song, right?
yeah, yeah. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, old song,
Oh yeah,
old
yeah.
song.
I mean, Ray Charles is great. But you mentioned a band that I want to talk to you a little bit about. It's AC/DC, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the moment you said that name, instantly, I that AC/DC Live was my first CD ever.
Ah, really?
Yeah, so that brings back tons of great memories, you know. Cause I remember us going in, me and my mom went to like Tower Records way back when, you know, back when
Yeah,
Tower Records were there. And I was like, I want this CD, AC/DC live. And she said, "Are you sure? There's going to be a lot of cheering and it's live. It's not going to," like, yes,
yeah.
mom, I really want it. So she got me in, and that was my very first CD. So,
Was that Bon Scott
huh? No,
singing that? Was that
that was Brian
Brian
Johnson.
Johnson?
Yeah.
Brian Johnson, yeah.
Yeah, but they're both great. Speaking of that, do you remember your first album or CD or cassette tape? Because I had a lot of cassettes, but I don't remember which cassette was. But I
Yeah,
do
I do.
remember AC/DC being my first CD ever.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
I,
Yeah.
I, I actually don't remember the first thing that I bought. I can't remember, but AC/DC were probably, that's what got me into playing guitar to begin
Yes.
with.
Yep.
So an AC/DC riff, I think,
It's easy. Three chords.
I, yeah, it's three chords exactly.
Yeah.
But it's funny you say it's a simple. It's like the blues. The
Yeah.
idea of it is simple, but it takes a lifetime to master. And the AC/DC,
Yeah.
it's three chords, but
Yeah. Yeah.
what he does with them is
Yeah.
so specific, and it's got so much feel, and it's got so much groove to it. All these things that you can't get better at besides
Mm,
doing them. And that
mm.
and that were the first things that I learned. I think the first song I learned was "Ain't No Fun Waiting Around to Be a Millionaire,"
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was just this really grooving song, and it was just. And so it was all AC/DC riffs that I learned to begin with. That
Yeah.
was the foundation that I wanted to be, I wanted to
Yeah.
be Angus and
Yeah.
Malcolm combined
I
because
think they all use chords A, E, and D, and I think that's the three chords like like the base of the blues are, because they're like a
yeah,
blues
yeah,
band, but they figured out
absolutely.
how to like make it like rock and roll type. I guess they were
Absolutely.
yeah,
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 yeah. Well, once I got so I started learning AC/DC, and then got into learning all the metals. When I've been playing guitar for 3 years or so, and I
yeah,
started playing a lot more electric guitar. I started learning all the metal stuff and all the fast shredding stuff because
right,
you're interested in that as a kid. And then later started learning on the acoustic guitar again, and I started learning stuff like Chuck Berry. And I remember my guitar teacher saying, he goes, well, this is just what Angus and Malcolm are doing as well,
right, yeah, yeah, because they're doing that little walk, right, yeah, the
Same,
duck walk,
same sort of
yeah,
thing, and then
yeah,
you do it, and you can hear all this connection of stuff.
yeah,
And yeah, it is blues. AC/DC is very much that's their foundation. And that's
right,
why it's so powerful. It works so
yeah.
well.
I find it very interesting that the bands that you look up to now got inspiration from different bands because you said Angus Young with the Duck Walk, he got that from Chuck Berry, like just like you said.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
I feel like everybody is so worried about stealing stuff from other bands, but it's like okay, well if that just means to me that they derive inspiration from the band enough to actually do what they do.
yeah. I don't think it was always. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't always viewed as like plagiarism or taking. It
Right.
was just
Yeah.
inspiration. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was inspiration. And I think everyone does it. I
Right.
think they still do it, but people
Oh
now
yeah.
pretend that they don't do it. And
Right.
in a
Yeah.
way, that's worse. I think you're
Yeah.
better off just going, yeah, we're doing
Yeah.
this, and you can see where the influence comes, and you do something, and invariably some different sound comes out of it.
Right.
Always
Yeah.
aberration of the original sound happens, and then you
Yeah.
got something new. It's cool.
Right. Yeah. Because say what if Angus didn't do that duck walk? Where would he be now?
It'd be forgotten. The duck walk would be gone.
See,
No one know about it.
one move made a band like 10 times bigger as they would have been if he didn't do it. That's just
Yeah.
for instance. But yeah. So I don't know why bands get a bad rap for taking things from other artists. It's weird, especially
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was something that was a bit more seen as maybe because it's much more commercial. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
sure.
So okay, I got four quick questions for you. We're gonna try to wrap this up so you can go ahead and eat some food or drink some delicious coffee. All right. So you have a dual talent as both the musician and the filmmaker, just like that mentioned before.
Yep.
How do these two artistic mediums inform each other? And do you ever find that one influences the directions of the other uh, in unexpected ways, or is it just like you know,
Yeah, they do. I, I, I sometimes see music as visual, and
okay,
I'd love to at some point make. I'd love to get into making feature films
yeah,
with the music. Um, that I've been making. And sometimes I'll be writing a song and I'll think maybe I could make that song or that theme into a film. Um, and that's all stuff that I'm working on slowly in the background. Seems to take, you might get influenced by an idea and then it takes sometimes years to percolate and come to life.
Right.
And then often I find then I'll just do it and something will happen
And it
pretty
works,
quickly.
right? And it works
Yeah,
perfectly. Yeah.
yeah. And but the visuals, yeah, there's one song for Narcissist which I made a video clip for, which was the visuals. I had a lot of fun making that, marrying up the vision to the. I'll send you the video clip
Yeah.
and the vision of the imagery just goes nicely with the sound. And I love doing that. I make video clips for other people
Yeah.
and I get inspired by that as well. Yeah, they're very closely related, and also they give me, it's sort of one renews the other a little bit.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. But yeah, specifically, I don't know if they influence each other so much.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's fair. So your music has often described as both gritty and ethereal, just like we said in the bio. How do you personally navigate the tension between these two qualities?
Um, I think I don't try and over overthink what I write
Yeah,
too
so it
much.
just comes. So does it just come naturally to you?
Yeah, stuff and ideas will just come.
Okay.
Ideas will just. I can't say where, and yeah. Occasionally, something will come from a specific idea or a situation But I tend not to try and even when I play live, I tend not to try and explain too much what a song is because I love the idea of a song um, meaning something to someone else, And I mean, like an example for that is I had when I first made Slaughterhouse Road, I just did a live version of the song and then I put it out there on the internet. And some guy from Mississippi contacted me and said, "Hey, that reminds me of the slaughterhouse up in some region," and it had this whole meaning to him. And I
Yeah.
just thought, wow, that is so cool. So I don't really like going into the meanings, but it does when it, yeah, I don't know where I get my sorry, was that the question about where the inspiration was? Sorry, what was
Yeah,
the
it's like how do you personally navigate the tension between the two
the
qualities?
two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
yeah. I
yeah.
think I think the gritty side comes from I think the performance is generally I'm not a very polished I wouldn't say I'm a very polished or disciplined performer. So
Okay.
it's got a bit of grit in the performance.
Yeah.
It's always a little bit sort of could go either way. And so I think that's where the grittiness, but I think the etherealness probably comes from the some of the lyrics and I try and marry those. I like the two things, the rawness and the ethereal stuff together is like really cool. And I like trying to blend them together. I like that in other people's performances, and I like them in mine. But at the same time, I'm not trying to really intentionally do either. I think
Right.
it's just natural.
Right. Yeah.
Probably, if anything, I'm trying to be a bit more disciplined with it, but it's
What?
fun,
Right.
It's
Yeah. Well,
gritty, and that's what it is. Yeah.
there you go. There you go. Okay. So our last two questions are going to be the hardest I've ever asked for you today.
Okay,
Are
cool.
you ready? All
Go
right.
for it.
Okay. Can you give us your Mount Rushmore of bands or artists? Favorite four artists or bands of all time? What would they be to you?
Um, yeah, AC/DC would have to be one of them.
Gotta be.
Bob Dylan,
Okay.
Leonard Cohen, and probably Johnny
Johnny
Cash.
Cash. But that's a great four. I mean, you can't go
Yeah,
wrong with
yeah,
them
yeah.
all.
I
Yeah.
mean, Neil Young, I've started getting into Neil Young
Neil
more and
Young is
more,
amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
and I think he's influenced me a lot, over the last decade,
Yeah.
particularly. Yeah.
Nice. Well, that was an easy question for you. That
That
was
wasn't
great.
too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, because most times
Yeah.
I throw people off because such a hard question for people to come up with because there's so many great bands out there. You know, you can't dwindle
It
it down to
is.
four. You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's
It's
why
tough.
many people get that. Like so. I figured that this is going to be hard, but might be easy for you. I don't know. We'll see. Last question.
Okay.
Okay, so is there a song, album, or artist that you can hear right now, but you can't tell me, your dad, your mom, your parent, your anybody how it makes you feel deep inside your soul?
Sorry, can you say the last bit again?
Yes. Is there
Uh,
like an artist, album, or a song that you can hear right now, but you can't tell anybody how it makes you feel deep inside your soul?
Um, I think I actually think most stuff I hear, I don't think I could articulate. I think that is you've just described the nature of music, James, because I don't think you can describe how it affects you deep inside your soul.
No.
It's like trying to someone to say, describe the color blue or
You're-
describe the emotion. You sort of can't. There's sort of you can't really
yeah.
because it's a feeling, and
Right.
yeah, that is the thing that, and I would say it changes from
It does. It
time to
does.
time, all the time.
Just like the top four bands. It says that they minute to minute.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, but nothing, not particular.
Nothing stands out to you.
Yeah, nothing. There, there is so much, so
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
has an effect with me, and I carry, that's the beauty of music. You can recall it
Right.
and at any
Exactly.
time.
Exactly. Awesome. Awesome.
I hope that answered the question, James. That's
That's perfect because because there's no right and wrong answer. That's great.
yeah,
You,
yeah.
you nailed it right out the gate. Yeah. So for everybody listening, you could always find Miguel Rios. Miguel, I said right instead
Yeah,
of
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
super teacher, right? Uh, you can find him at MiguelRiosMusic.com. He is on Facebook and Instagram under the same Miguel Rios Music. And then
Yep, that's it.
are we on TikTok or any of the other fun stuff?
Not on tick, not nothing like that.
Okay.
I haven't graduated to that sort of
It's hard, dude.
level.
I still don't understand it. I still don't understand.
But I've got a website which is miguelriosmusic.com.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but no, I haven't gone to the TikTok realm yet.
Yeah, it's I still don't understand it. I'm just trying my best, to get through it. So um and please download this song Innocent Man, which you can find on Apple Music and Spotify right now. And let's try to get him some money so he can make Slaughterhouse Road on vinyl.
That
And
would
then I
be
can do
cool.
one.
I would love to do that. A
And
few
then I
people
can,
have mentioned it, and you've mentioned it again today. So
yeah.
really
So
exciting.
so let me just ask you this: if we could get you if we could make you a Slaughterhouse Road record, what color vinyl would you do? Because I know a lot of bands are doing different vinyl colors and whatnot. Any fun colors come
They
to
are.
mind?
I don't know if I think if I could choose one, I'd probably choose like a green color, I reckon.
Ooh, I love green.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
green.
I like
Yeah,
green. Yeah, yeah, like that seems like it would fit with the wild tobacco plants, that
yeah,
used to
right.
grow.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
so I think
Oh,
I'd go for
check
that.
out Running Blue and Slaughterhouse Road, and always check out Innocent Man. And do we have any more on the rise? I mean, in the near future?
Yes, so Innocent Man was we recorded another song that's also written by Lola and Martin and myself.
Yeah.
So at the same time we recorded Innocent Man, we recorded a B-side called The Joys of Sin.
Oh, great.
And Lola, once again, this is written by Lola,
Yeah.
and and it's a very interesting. It's about a guy that gets robbed by a woman that is a beautiful woman that
Oh,
she
yeah,
robs him.
such a life, right?
And she wrote this. She came to me and she goes, "I've got this song. It's a bit spicy. It's a bit saucy, but I think you'll be
Mm,
able to do it." And so
nice.
we did it. And so we're releasing that hopefully in a few weeks. We haven't
Okay,
come up with a date, but maybe at the end of November. And so
perfect,
that'll be sort of like the other side to this Innocent
perfect.
Man.
So when you see Lola, can you tell her something for me? Can you tell her
I
that
will.
I'm jealous of her? Because I would love to just sit down and write songs back to back to back, like you said she does. And I don't know how people do it, but they fascinate me to death, and I'm so jealous that she can do that. You know?
Yeah, well, I'll tell her. I'll tell her, James. Maybe you can have
Yeah,
a chat with her
yeah, oh
sometime.
yeah,
She's
definitely.
fascinating. She's got a whole folder like this. She comes with this whole folder, and she just goes, and wow, she's really interesting. She's really interesting songwriter, really interesting person,
Yeah,
fascinating person to
yeah,
talk
so
to.
technically all she has to do is just open the book and okay, want to do this one? Let's go. Right?
I lost you a little bit,
Okay. Oh,
James.
can you hear me? The one, two, three.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay,
you're
yeah.
back.
Okay, yeah. So we honestly do thank you for coming on the show, and we honestly do love you and welcome you back anytime you want to. And I can't wait to meet you.
Thanks.
Just let me know when you're going to Nashville, and then I'll probably figure something out to come down and meet you.
I will, James. Thanks
All
so
right.
much for having me on. And thanks
Yes,
for
sir.
doing the show.
Sure.
It's
Thank
a
you so
really
much.
I love the concept of the show when it is what music does that thing when all else fails, really. Yeah.
Right. When words fail, music speaks, right?
When
Yeah.
words fail.
Yes, sir. All right.
Exactly.
So everybody that's listening, thank you, and always remember when words fail, music speaks. Bye, guys.